Chicago. Welcome back to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We finally got a win to talk about. Thursday night football, the Bears end the streak 40-20 over the Washington Commanders to get their first win of this season and their first win in nearly a full year. Something about October apparently with this bunch. We will be discussing that. Plus, can they turn it into multiple wins? We will see. We'll see what they can do. But we're not just going to do football tonight. No, we're also going to do some baseball. We want to dive into both the Cubs and the White Sox as they have begun their off seasons, review the season that was, and take a look at the season that will be. And then we want to go around the college scoreboard a little bit and go into some of the other things that were happening in the sports world all around the city of Chicago. Lots to get to. This is Chi-Town Weekly. Buckle on up, everybody. Let's go. And hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome back in to another episode of Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Lots to get through tonight. I am your host, Adam Karnick. Glad that you are here with me. Lots to get through tonight. We get to have some fun tonight when talking about the Bears. It's not all just going to be doom and gloom for once. We'll be doing that. We will also get into the Cubs and the White Sox as they are preparing for their long winter months ahead. Take a look at the seasons they had, plus then what they need to do in the offseason. We will take a look around the college scoreboard a little bit. We'll also, I'd like to get into maybe a little bit of the marathon over the weekend, and maybe, just maybe, we'll talk a little bit of hockey. Well, before we get out of here tonight, too. So lots to get to, lots to do, so let's dive into it. And, of course, we want to start things off by acknowledging our sponsor here at IE Sports Radio. As we talk about, of course, the Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, the single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. This is some of the best jerky you can get your hands on. All you have to do is visit planetjerky.net, place your order. You can also follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. And you can try anything from their volcanic jalapeno, the classic barbecue, or they do have ghost pepper and some other various flavors as well. Premium brisket beef jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. IE Sports Radio. For the last 9.5 years, we have brought you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to keep up with the latest in sports and with our shows. Also, check out our daily updated website, iesportsradio.com, for sports news, the IE Sports Radio blog, our Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month, pages dedicated to each of our podcasts, our IE Sports Radio community forum, and stop by the shop and check out the merchandise. Thank you for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And you heard the link there to follow along with the station on all of the social media platforms at IE Sports Radio. This show is also available for you. You can find us on X at IESRC, or you can follow along with me personally. I am at Adam_Karnick. If you are listening live here tonight on Monday night on the Spreaker.com or the Spreaker.com app, hop on into the chat room. We can interact and have some fun that way. Bounce back and forth a little bit in the chat room. Or if you're listening later on in the week as a podcast, whether it's iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, all the different ways that you can listen to the show, or you're listening live, but you're shy, or you just want to sit back and listen, whatever it is, thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. The Bears won a game. The Bears won a game. Hallelujah. I genuinely was preparing myself for an 0-17 season. It was starting to have those vibes to it. I was a guest on a show, not with the network, elsewhere. You remember when we had NFL Outdated on to help preview the beginning of the show? Well, I was on one of his shows, the Friesen 4 NFC North edition show on Wednesday night, and they had on there talking about all four teams in the North, and I asked the gentleman that he had on there for the Lions if he had any advice for getting through a winless season, because I was starting to prepare mentally for that. Instead, we don't have to. The losing streak is over. The ridiculousness is over and done with, and we can actually dissect and talk about a win for a little bit. For the second game in a row, we got to see the offense humming, and we got to see what it's like when they're actually catering to what the players can do in the moment rather than what they'd like the script to say. And you had outstanding results. Once again, every single drive in the first half ended in a score. They didn't need to punt until the second half. And the defense came to life as well once again with Coach Eberflus calling plays. You once again, you saw in the first half of that game, they held the Commanders in check. Just the one score for Washington in the first half. DJ Moore is an absolute beast of a receiver, and it is, oh my gosh, so wonderful that Poles was able to acquire him for the Bears this offseason, because they clearly they do not win that game without him on Thursday night. You know, of course, the 280 yards, the 3 touchdowns, just the dominant performance. Moore was literally the only wide receiver for the Bears that caught a pass Thursday night. There were only 3 players that caught passes on Thursday night. DJ Moore had 8 of the 15 catches for the team. Kmet had 5, and then Robert Tonyan a pair of them. You know, another thing that I think, so we're talking about the offense for a second. You know, this was the second game in a row without Chase Claypool. and they won't have Claypool for the rest of the season, as over the weekend they managed to sneak out a trade, sending him to Miami for a swap of 2025 draft picks. That's, wow. That is, you gave him away. The Bears got Miami's sixth round pick in 2025 in exchange for Chase Claypool and the Bears' 7th round draft pick in 2025. That is the Dolphins saying, sure, why not? We're feeling pretty confident with what we've got here, but a little more what do we have to lose? If we don't like him, he's a pending free agent, and we just don't re-sign him. What the heck have we got to lose? Sure, we'll throw a bone your way. I don't think it's a coincidence that the offense has appeared more cohesive and just better with Claypool out of it. I'm not saying Claypool was the primary reason why the offense was bad. Far from it. It was Getsy and ultimately Eberflus trying to force feed a system that everybody knew wasn't working down their throats, and they alter the scheme and change what they're doing a little bit, and you wind up with better results. But also having Claypool out of there, he was turning into a cancer. He was turning into a locker room cancer, and getting him out of there just helps everybody else. Fields likes Equiminius St. Brown. He trusts him. He's not afraid to throw him the ball. EQ had that excellent catch against the Broncos. He didn't have any catches against Washington. He did have a couple of targets. Or he had one official target in the game. Obviously didn't catch it, but you had some things there with EQ. EQ's also a far more willing blocker, which contributes to the running game doing well. And then the defense. Oh my goodness, the defense. The Commanders came in. Sam Howell had taken the most sacks in the NFL through 4 games. So you knew that going into this, there were going to be opportunities there. Would the Bears be able to take advantage of them? And my gosh, they did. 5 sacks in that game Thursday night. They had 2 in the first 4 games combined. Mike Pat, the host of Let's Whine About DMV Sports on Friday nights, was lamenting Friday night after the game that Washington allowed the Bears to triple their sack output for the season. And speaking of Mike Pat, right on cue, he jumps into the chat room. He heard his name. Pointed out the Bears tripled their sack output for the year on Thursday night. I was stunned. Edwards, DeMarcus Walker, Yannick Ngakoue. He's still in the team lead. He's got 2. Rasheem Green with a sack, and Greg Stroman. Greg Stroman. What a night for that young man. Third cornerback, or third nickelback on the depth chart. 3rd string nickel. Only playing because Kyler Gordon's out and Josh Blackwell's out. He goes and has a 7-tackle night. 4 of them were solos. He has a sack, a tackle for loss, a pass defended, and a quarterback hit. What a night from Stroman. That was an outstanding, and he had an interception to go along with that. He had the Bears' first interception of a starting quarterback all year. Former Commander Greg Stroman. Well, no wonder he had the big night then. He was going up against his old team. that would explain it. You always want to show out against your former guys, the team that let you go. All that being said, though, and give the Bears all the credit that you want to give for winning the game. They did. You're coming in off of a heartbreaking loss against the Broncos. You're 0-4. You're on the road. It's a short week. There's all the talk in the building about how your head coach is going to get axed the next morning as soon as the plane lands back in Chicago, unless something miraculous happens. You don't have a defensive coordinator. And oh, by the way, one of the legends of your program and one of the legends of, football, Dick Butkus, passes away, and it's announced mere hours before kickoff. Yeah, the Bears had every reason in the book to lose the game. But they didn't. They dug deep. They figured out a way to win. And now you can look at the upcoming schedule and say, wow, they've really got an opportunity here to turn this around. They've got a date with the Minnesota Vikings this coming Sunday. The Vikings will be very likely to be without Justin Jefferson, right as Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon might be coming back. Now you can just focus on Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson and Alexander Madison, my favorite, one of my new favorite football names, Alexander Madison. Sorry. I just had to get that out. There, I'll move on. I've got it out of my system. I'm done. But now you might not have to worry about defending arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL for this week. You follow that up. You're hosting the Raiders, who are also right now just one win as they are taking on the Packers tonight on Monday Night Football. We hope that, we'd love for the Raiders to beat the Packers, but at the same time, the Raiders are just bad. The Raiders are a bad football team. They've got the Packers tonight. They've got the Patriots next week, who also suddenly have just become a really bad football team. But the Raiders shouldn't be anything great coming into that game. So you've got an opportunity here to stack some wins together and get yourself back in this season a little bit. All that said and told, though, there are still problems. For as wonderful as it was, as Taryn Rodriguez pops into the chat for all of a minute, he's got to get back to work. Good evening, Taryn. I know you're getting ready to do your show here in a little bit as well. Thanks for popping in for a minute. They won a game. Holy cow, we haven't seen that. All that said, though, there are still issues. There are still problems that need addressing. And to me, I'm still not ready to let the coaching staff off the hook. And here's the biggest reason why. As Mike Pat brings up how the Commanders are streak busters. They broke Philly's winning streak, Baltimore's preseason winning streak, and now the Bears' losing streak. And not to rub salt in the wound, Mike, but if I remember correctly, weren't the Commanders, or as they were known then as the Redskins, weren't they also the team that got the Lions off of their winless streak back in 2009? As I recall, it was Washington at Detroit when Detroit won a game to end their 17 or 18 game losing streak, as I recall. Like I said, not that I want to pour salt in the wound, but I do want to make sure I'm remembering history correctly there. I still don't want to let Eberflus off the hook, though. Or Getsy, for that matter. And here's why. 2 weeks in a row, you've gotten off to outstanding, amazing starts. It was 27-3 at halftime against Washington, and against Denver the week before, it was 21-7. Mike saying that sounds feasible. I'll have to look it up during the break. I'm vaguely recalling this, but 2 weeks in a row, you've gotten off to these great starts, and then the other team's gotten back into it. Of course, we know what happened against Denver. And then, yes, the Bears won by 20 on Thursday, but that was about as close of a 20-point win as you can have. I mean, they talk about football being a game of inches. That the Bears were inches away from that game being tied with 4 minutes and change left to go. Don't forget that in the fourth quarter, at one point it was 30-20 Chicago. Washington was driving, got into field goal range, only to have Slay push a 46-yard field goal wide to the right, missed by a very small amount. And then on the ensuing drive, yes, Justin hits DJ Moore for the long touchdown run. And Kendall Fuller missed the interception. Fuller didn't miss that interception by much, though. And if Fuller picks that ball off, nobody's catching up to him. That's a touchdown the other direction. So that game was very, very, very close to being tied with about 4.5 minutes to go, and all the momentum would have been with Washington. Which is to say very succinctly, 2 weeks in a row, you let the other guy back into the fight. And Davidson in the chat room asking, I wonder if the play calling can keep the same pace. And ultimately what we saw, well, I'll start offensively. You can make excuses. You can understand what happened in the Washington game on both sides, offensive and defense, but it's still a problem. For the Bears, the biggest obstacle, of course, was they literally ran out of running backs. They did not have any. Roshan Johnson got concussed and had to leave in the second quarter. Khalil Herbert blew out his Achilles, tried to come back in, took one toss, immediately went down in a heap, and you knew he was done. And then you had Travis Homer got injured at some point in the game, and he didn't come back in. Meanwhile, Dante Foreman was inactive for the third straight game for reasons. So you literally, all you had was Justin Fields and Kerry Blasingame. And you didn't want to use Fields as a running back because you're trying to get away from that as a team. So you were stuck using your fullback as your leading rusher for the fourth quarter. I saw a tweet that he wound up in the fourth quarter alone, had already doubled his rushing attempts for his entire career. I think he wound up finishing with 8 or 9 carries in the game. Let me look it back up here as I get the box score back up here in front of me. Where, you know, he was all you had as far as a running game. So it's hard to milk the clock when you don't have a running back. But still, you scored 21 points in the first half against Denver. You scored 27 in the first half against Washington. And now in the second half of both of these games, you've only put up 20 points total. You're taking your foot off the gas a bit in the second half, and I don't like it. you've got to, Blasingame finished with 8. He had 3 carries total for his career coming into the game. He had 8 in that game Thursday night. You can't let your foot off the gas. You've got to stay aggressive, and you've got to ultimately finish the job. And then defensively, they allowed the Commanders back into it. Now, give them credit. They were able to shut the door when they needed to. And the excuse there is, look at how decimated they are in the secondary. Look at how little talent they have in their front 7, in their front 6. There's not much to work with there. And this is where Eberflus and Getsy, I still feel like I don't want to let them off the hook, because teams adjust at halftime to what you're doing. And when that happens, the Bears don't seem to have a counter. They don't seem to have the ability to recognize and then act upon how they're being attacked now. That was they changed things up. Well, just keep going out there and doing what you're doing, guys. Just keep trying hard. Just keep working hard, and eventually this will work. That attitude of just keep hustling will only get you so far. Eventually, you can't just keep running up against a brick wall. It's not going to work. And that is what I fear we might see happen here. I don't know if it's, especially with the offense. I mean, it's amazing. Justin Fields has been so good the last 2 games. He's now tied for second in the NFL in touchdown passes. He's had 8 in the last 2 games. I fear that eventually what teams are going to figure out how to attack what the Bears are doing now, and the Bears won't have a counter. That's why I still don't want to let Eberflus off the hook. I don't want to let Getsy off the hook. You still need to be better. You need to, this is what okay, keep playing the chess game. Don't throw your hands up and say, well, they figured out what we're doing. Guess it's time to go home. No, counter. Figure out another move that you can do, another way that you can attack what they're now presenting you instead of what they were presenting you. That's the challenge as we're moving forward to face the Vikings and face the Raiders and hopefully try to turn this into a winning streak going forward. We're going to take a break. On the flip side, the Cubs and White Sox have both, of course, unfortunately failed to make the postseason. I want to go back and really look at the 2023 MLB season here in Chicago. Look at what went well, mostly for the Cubs. What went wrong? My God, the Chicago White Sox are awful. And what needs to happen this winter so that both teams can get back on the right track. You are listening to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No. Not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
From Russell's return to great division rivalries to young quarterback battles, what better way to wind down the first day of the new work week than with USRN's Monday Night Football? Season premieres September 12th on USRN.
What up, Boston sports fans? This is Mikey Two Guns here, your host of Our Bleepin' City, airing every Wednesday night from 7 to 8 p.m. right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Please join me. We'll talk everything Boston sports, all the local teams, college teams. I'm even down to talk MMA, boxing, whatever you guys want. So join me every Wednesday night, 7 to 8 p.m. Chime in with your questions on the chat, tweet the show. We'll even have call-ins. I can't wait to hear from you guys. This is going to be a lot of fun. So once again, it's Our Bleepin' City. I am your host, Mikey Two Guns, every Wednesday night from 7 to 8 p.m. right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. See you soon, people.
Hey sports fans, are you in the market for Florida sports or just keeping up with the latest in the Panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For a down south education on Florida sports and athletics, it's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Karnick back with you here. We're going to be able to stretch our legs a little bit tonight and go a little long if we want to. Taryn Rodriguez will be going on and doing set point, but he's going to be doing it starting at 8:30 Central Time as opposed to 8 o'clock. So he'll be going on in a little less than an hour. So we've got a little bit of extra time to go tonight. That was why I went a little long in the Bears segment, a little longer than I wanted. Originally had allotted for, but we can stretch our legs a little bit here tonight. So I want to get into some baseball a little bit. Of course, both the Cubs and the White Sox failed to make the playoffs, failed to make the postseason. Wanted to talk about kind of their seasons as a whole, the ups and downs, but then also wanted to look at and talk about what can they do this offseason, what should they do this offseason, so that hopefully this time a year from now, at least one, if not both of them, are still playing as the division series is going on. I know Mike Pat is very much on pins and needles right now as the Baltimore Orioles are taking on the Texas Rangers in the American Division League Series. My in-laws are keeping a close eye on the Twins, and so I'm trying to follow the Twins a little bit as they're still alive, taking on the Houston Astros. We might have an all-Texas American League Championship Series here, and of course everything going on in the National League as well. So let's start. I want to start with the Cubs. Obviously the better overall season as a whole. They didn't get eliminated from the postseason until the final weekend of the regular season. They were, at the beginning of September, it seemed like they were almost virtual locks to make the regular season. Then, of course, September happened, and it all fell apart a little bit. They ultimately finished 83-79, 9 games out of first place in the Central. Did finish with an outstanding run differential of plus 96, which was the best in the division. Per ESPN, that run differential they would have expected the Cubs to finish more around 91 and 71. So about 8 games under what their run differential would have expected for them. A big reason for that, they ultimately finished 21 and 24 in one-run games, little below 500, which is better than they were at one point during the season, but still, if you could flip one or two of those going the other direction, and they were 3-6 in extra inning games. So some things there that were kind of working against them a little bit. They fell behind early in the season and had to play catch up basically from the month of June on. They were trying to get themselves back into the race and trying to prove that they shouldn't be trying to sell off pieces of the team, that they should be looking to buy and add and move on from there. Who are some of the stars for the team? Well, of course, Cody Bellinger, playing center field and first base, led the team with a .307 batting average, a huge resurgent season for him coming over on a one-year deal from the Dodgers. Led the team in average, home runs with 26, was also the RBI leader with 97. Bellinger ultimately finished the year 130 games played, just under 500 plate appearances on the season for him. Finished with a final slash line 307, 356, 525 for an OPS of 881. ESPN would give him a WAR of 4.4. Fangraphs gives him a little bit different of a number, 4.1 number. WAR, again, being wins above replacement, basically looking at all of his statistics and how many wins was this one player worth. Another great player for the Cubs this season, Dansby Swanson at shortstop. Just a terrific year at the plate. 244, 328, 416 for an OPS of 744. But his defensive numbers were just so good. According to Fangraphs, he had a defensive WAR, which that's just looking at a player, how a player did defensively and saying what was he worth. He was worth 20 wins as a shortstop. He just was so strong at the shortstop position this year for the Cubs, coming over from Atlanta. Just such a terrific player for the Cubs. Didn't always have the offensive numbers you were looking for, but still in 147 games, he had 187 putouts, 382 assists, only 11 errors on the season. Started 36 double plays. On the year. Just terrific play from that shortstop position. Also for the Cubs this year, on base percentage leader Ian Happ, 360 with his on base percentage. Nico Horner actually led the team in hits with 175. Ian Happ also led the team in doubles with 37. Seiya Suzuki led them in triples with 6. Some good things all around there from the everyday players. Also then in the pitching, on the pitching side of things, you had Marcus Stroman start off the year so good before he got injured and had to deal with some things there. And then you had Justin Steele emerge out of that starting rotation. Steele led the team in wins with 16, an ERA of 3.06, 176 strikeouts for Steele in just 173 and a third innings. Gave up just 14 home runs, 36 walks. Like I said, the 176 strikeouts paced the team. A whip of 1.17 on the season for him. And then you eventually had the back end of the bullpen get resolved as well. Adbert Alzolay wound up stepping into the closer role partway through the season and got a firm grasp on it. 22 saves for Alzolay in, I believe it was 23 opportunities. 67 strikeouts in 64 innings pitched, so better than a strikeout an inning. And a whip of 1.02. Overall ERA 2.67. Suffice to say, it feels like the Cubs have their closer of the future. So what do they need to do moving forward? What do the Cubs need to do to get better play overall and win the National League Central and get into the playoffs next season? The obvious answer is corner infield. You need some work. You need either a first baseman or a third baseman, or possibly both. They acquired Jeimer Candelario at the trade deadline, and he gave them some instant offense right out of the gate from that corner infield spot, but then he also got hurt. He also was a bit of a liability defensively. Going back over to the Fangraphs numbers, he had a negative defensive WAR number, meaning he actually cost the Cubs when he played on defense. I've heard a lot of people clamor for Cody Bellinger to come back, that have Cody Bellinger play first base, and then you can have Candelario play third, and you've hopefully solved the problem. And you got a couple issues with that. The biggest one being, is that what Cody Bellinger wants to do? Bellinger played primarily center field. He was a tremendous teammate and chipped in at first base as it became apparent that Patrick Wisdom and Matt Mervis and a lot of the other guys that they tried out at first just weren't working. And Bellinger was a trooper and a professional and said, yeah, I'll help out. I'll play first when you need me to. But I don't know that he wants to play first base 150 times next season. And we saw enough of Pete Crow Armstrong. You know, Pete Crow Armstrong played in just 13 games last season. He did well enough to have a defensive WAR of 1. You know, in just 13 games. That's impressive to do. He showed that, at least defensively, it's going to be very hard to keep him off the roster, out of the lineup to start the season next year. And if you're Bellinger, do you want to then play primarily first base? If the answer to that is no, then I don't think the Cubs are the right fit for him. Also, for the Cubs, there's the matter of you're going to have to allocate some funds to some other places. You're going to have to bring Kyle Hendricks back. You're going to have to very potentially throw some money at Marcus Stroman. He's almost certainly going to be opting into his deal this year, but you've got some money due there. You've got to figure out some finances, and I don't know that Cody Bellinger. I don't know if the Cubs will want to pay Bellinger what Bellinger is looking to get paid. So I don't know that that's happening. You're also going to have to figure out some rotation pieces. Justin Steele was tremendous. Marcus Stroman, if he can be healthy, if he can get right, you saw that he can be overwhelmingly good. I mean, for a couple of months there to start the season, it was Stroman's on the hill, put it down as a win. And then he got hurt. He got the blister in London, and then he had the strange injuries after that. And you basically lost him from the end of June on. He just wasn't either. He physically wasn't. He just literally wasn't there, or the guy you were getting was not Marcus Stroman. Besides that, Drew Smyly was a disaster. You cannot have him back throwing meaningful situations. You've got to figure some things out there. Javier Assad, you got to see. He showed some flashes early on. You can potentially have some things there that worked. Jameson Tyone, though, was a problem for you. Wisniewski was a problem for you overall. Jordan Wicks looked good. Are you ready to have him be a regular part of your rotation? Those are some things you've got to answer. I think the Cubs minimum need a starter, but I wouldn't have a problem with them looking at trying to get 2 starters into the rotation. Seems like Kyle Hendricks is going to be back. That it seems like they want to bring him back, and Hendricks himself wants to be back, so that can take care of one spot. But I would still say you want to get at least 1 more, possibly 2 more starters into this rotation for next year. So that takes care of the Cubs. Ooh, now I got to prepare myself. The White Sox. Oh, boy, the White Sox. In what was supposed to be a championship contending season, the Cubs finished 61 and 101. 40 games under 500, 26 games out of first place in the American League Central, and 4th place in the American League Central overall. A whopping run differential of minus 200. Second worst in the American League, behind only, thank God, for the Oakland Athletics. They were, to put it mildly, the White Sox had it rough this season. Team leaders, Luis Robert was probably the bright spot on the White Sox all season. Batting average of .264, led the team in home runs with 38, 80 RBIs on the season. Luis Robert also drew 30 walks, 20 stolen bases on the year, slashed 264, 315, 542 for an 857 OPS, a WAR, according to ESPN, of 5.1, which easily led the team in WAR. Besides that, though, you didn't have much. Andrew Benintendi led the team in on-base percentage and in hits with 147 hits, a 326 on-base percentage. Benintendi, 34 doubles, 2 triples, 5 home runs, 45 RBIs on the season in 562 at-bats. Slash 262, 326, 356, an OPS of just 682. Ugh. And you've got a lot of that throughout the team. You know, Luis Robert led the team with an 857 OPS. He was the only. Oh, I take that back. Jake Berger had an OPS of over 800, but he also got traded to Miami at the trade deadline. So Robert was the only player on the White Sox to start and finish the season with the White Sox that had an OPS of over 800. And 800, 850 is kind of like the league benchmark, the league minimum almost for OPS. You had Benintendi with that 682, Tim Anderson with just a 582 OPS. And it's the on base was there, the power, just no power from Anderson, a 296 slugging. Eloy Jimenez, 758 OPS. Elvis Andrews, 662. Gavin Sheets, 599. Oscar Colas, 571. Luis Sosa, 571. Just a lot of just bad offensive numbers. The Sox made huge waves partway through the season by letting go of team president Kenny Williams and their general manager. Partway through the season, moving on from those guys who had been with the team for a long time. And you thought, oh, maybe this is it. That now maybe they're going to turn the page here. And then they announce that it's Chris Getz. You know, okay, you got rid of Rick Hahn, but now you're bringing in Chris Getz to take over the role. And Getz, you can very easily argue, is as much a part of the problem. And is this really going to bring in the right changes for this club, for this organization? I still feel like at this point for the White Sox, Pedro Grifol, obviously not a great first year for him. Pitching-wise for the White Sox, Dylan Cease was still very good. 214 strikeouts to lead the team. He had the best ERA of a 4.58. That's not great. Mike Clevenger led the team with 9 wins. Yuck. So I still am of the opinion for the White Sox that I would kind of try to blow this thing up and figure out what can you change going forward. Why did this one not work? And let's figure out some things going forward. I don't know what you could really get for many of these guys on the roster as it sits right now. I mean, Tim Anderson is a sunk cost. I think you let him go this offseason. You know, as much as I hate to say it, I think, moving Dylan Cease is probably going to be your best path forward ultimately for the organization to try and restart this, give this thing a jump start, some things like that. But it's looking bleak for the White Sox overall. This was supposed to be a championship contending year, and instead you lost 100 games. And you really weren't even close to being competitive. You had one of the worst offenses in all of baseball. And that's just, that's it's not an easy pill to swallow. And especially there's not a whole lot going on in the farm system to make you go, oh, well, at least there's help coming. So that's why I'd feel like move some of the pieces you have to try to restart and restock this thing a little bit. All right, we are going to take one more quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to take a look at the college football scene across Chicago and Illinois from over the weekend, and I also want to talk a little bit about the marathon before we get out of here. And then I've got some audio that I think will be just a very welcome, pleasant sound for a lot of Bears fans as we turn the page on the week that was. You are listening to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We will be right back after this.
Do you love college football? And do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college and the CCCAA and the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I Single A in the FBS? Well, then look no further. Join myself, Larry B., and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza, each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
Your wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your 5-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Everybody, this is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you. Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Taryn Rodriguez will be coming up here at about half past the hour, so we got a few more minutes to talk Chicago here on IE Sports Radio. Finish up Chi-Town Weekly, allowing ourselves to stretch our legs a little bit here for, another 5 minutes or so. Wanted a quick go around the college football scoreboard from Chicago and the greater Illinois area around the week. We've got some good scores, we've got some bad scores, and we've got a downright ugly score to get to. So we will start with the good. Northwestern, it took hosting an FCS level school, and it took holding on for dear life, but Northwestern did get the win over the weekend over Howard University, 23-20. Northwestern started its backup quarterback, Brendan Sullivan, on the day. He went 13 of 18 for 131 yards and 2 scores on the game. The Wildcats were up 16-0 at the half and ultimately led 23-7 after 3, but a couple of Howard scores late in the game allowed them to get close before the Northwestern defense was able to hang on and get the win. Elsewhere in the Big Ten on Friday night, Illinois fell at home to Nebraska 20-7. Nebraska scored a pair of touchdowns in a matter of just 10 seconds in that one to kind of put that one on ice. Nebraska led at one point 17-0 in the game. Luke Altmaier was just 29 of 47 for 289 yards, a touchdown, and an interception in that one. The Illinois running game really had a hard time getting going. Caden Fagan led the team with 5 carries for just 15 yards on the day as Illinois mustered just 21 yards rushing on the day. Looking forward to this week. Northwestern has this week off. They get their bye week, while meanwhile Illinois travels to Maryland to take on the Terrapins. Maryland just coming off of a loss against Ohio State last week, and Maryland. Mike, was Maryland ranked last week? I feel like they were. They no longer are. If they were, Maryland is now 5-1 on the season. Looking at the Big Ten standings real quick, then. In the Big Ten West, Northwestern still sits at 3rd overall, at 3-3 overall, 1-2 in the Big Ten, tied with Minnesota, Nebraska, and Purdue at 1-2 in the conference. And Illinois, last place in the Big Ten West at 2-4 overall, 0-3 in the Big Ten. We'll see if this weekend produces any different results. In the MAC, we had Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois last week, unfortunately, got the win. Northern Illinois did get the win last week against Akron, 55-14. A big 28-point second quarter. Followed that up with a 20-point third quarter. Allowed Northern to pull away in that one. Rocky Lombardi on the day, 10 of 15 for 191 yards, a pair of touchdowns. The big on the day, though, Ontario Brown, the junior running back out of Savannah, Georgia, 13 carries, 280 yards, and 4 scores on the day allowed Northern Illinois to pull away and get the win. They improved to 2-4 on the season. They held Akron to 107 yards rushing on the day. Also got a takeaway on the day. Northern Illinois did all that while holding the ball for just under 24 minutes, by the way. And then this week for Northern Illinois, they will host 5-1 Ohio this Saturday at 3 o'clock there at Northern Illinois. Currently the standings in the MAC, Northern Illinois in the Mid-American West Division, 2-4 overall, 1-1 in the conference, tied for second place with Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan for second place in the MAC West Division. At the FCS level, we had, I had it here. Where did Western Illinois had a rough day, falling to North Dakota 49-10. The Western Illinois now 0-5 on the season with that loss. Matt Morrissey on the day, 19 of 27, 145 yards, a touchdown, and an interception that got returned for a touchdown. Western Illinois fell behind 21-3 at the half and just never got back into it after that. However, we do still have Southern Illinois doing good things, trying to. I had the score. They were doing well, and then they played Youngstown State. Oh, there, I got it out. Southern Illinois came into the day 4-0. They would not end it undefeated. They lost 31-3 to Youngstown State. Fell behind 14-0, 14-3 at the half, and just never could get back into it. Nick Baker was held to just 94 yards throwing on the day on 12 of 27 throwing, and then the rushing was also a problem. Justin Strong led the team with just 8 yards rushing on 5 carries on the day. But that was not the worst score. No. We have to go to my alma mater for that. Concordia University taking on Aurora University over the weekend. Now, Aurora, to be fair, is ranked nationally at the D3 level. Aurora, 91. Concordia, Chicago, 0. Yuck. Not a strong showing there from my alma mater there. So, a bit of a rough week in college football, but hopefully this week things will turn around for our teams. Before we get out of here, a couple things real quick. I do want to congratulate everybody that took place in the Chicago Marathon over the weekend. The Bank of America Chicago Marathon, we had a new world record get set. Kelvin Kiptum set the new world record with an unofficial time of 2 hours and 35 seconds to run the marathon. Sifan Hassan also ran her first U.S. marathon and set a course record with an unofficial time of 2 hours, 13 minutes, and 38 seconds. Congratulations to everybody who took place, the 45th running of the Bank of America Chicago Marathon. Congratulations to everybody that took part in that. Simply finishing is an accomplishment in and of itself, so congratulations to everyone that took part in that. All right, we got to get out of the way because Taryn Rodriguez is getting set to get started with his show here in just a few minutes. He has got a busy slate. He is going to be recapping Week 7 of the NCAA women's volleyball season and previewing Week 8. He's also going to be recapping the Redondo Power Classic girls volleyball tournament that he happened to be at on Saturday. He's also going to be recapping the U.S. men's national volleyball team that qualified for the 2024 Olympics, as well as giving a preview of the Laguna Beach Open tournament that he is going to be attending and covering. Going to wind out the show a little bit differently tonight. I've got some special audio that I think all Bears fans, we deserve to enjoy a little bit. So I'm going to do my close now without any music. Big shout out and thank you to, of course, our sponsor, our sponsor here at the network, the Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that is out of this world. Planet Jerky. You definitely want to check them out. Some excellent stuff they have there. Check them out, planetjerky.net. Thank you to Larry B. All he does here at the network, everything that he does, keeping everything up and running and moving. Thank you to everybody that hung out in the chat room tonight, to Kathy, Mike, Davidson, Taryn, everybody. Thank you for that. Next week, of course, we will be breaking down Bears-Vikings. We will be discussing the Blackhawks as they will be starting their season later this week. We'll also probably find some time to talk some Chicago Bulls as well. But now, as we close out tonight, I wanted to play, this is from our sister station, USRN. Matt Owens had the call. Matthew Owens had the call last Thursday night as the Bears took on the Commanders, and he was very kind and gracious and put together a little highlight reel for all of us. So to close the book on the Bears finally winning a game in nearly a full calendar year, here is Matthew Owens of USRN on the call.
Empty backfield on 3rd and 14. Fields the snap. He drops to throw. He has plenty of time. Throws a tight spiral to the back left corner of the end zone, and wide open for the touchdown is DJ Moore. And Chicago marches right up the field on the opening drive, and they score the first points as DJ Moore was by himself in the back left corner of the end zone, and Fields put it right on him. The 11 from the shotgun. Fields the snap, twirls the ball in his hands, floats one to the back left corner, and Moore is there to make another two-handed catch for the Chicago touchdown. DJ Moore. Wow, what a catch, leaping up, looking into the lights against the defense of Fuller. And Chicago rolling early. From the 4, 1st and goal, Field shotgun, takes a snap, drops to throw, has time, throws over the middle at the goal line. It's caught on a crossing route by Cole Kmet. Touchdown, Chicago Bears. This is a huge play on 3rd and 2. Washington needing a stop as they have clawed back to within 10. With under 5 minutes to go, Field shotgun, has a hip-high snap. He drops to throw. He throws left high, but caught by Moore, and he got free up the far sideline for Fuller. No one is near Moore. Racing to the 20, racing to the 10, and into the end zone. Touchdown, Chicago. DJ Moore does it again. An enormous night, a career game from DJ Moore. His 3rd touchdown of the night, and this one is going to put it to bed. A gamble by Fuller, a catch by Moore, and then he sprints to the end zone. And this one will seal it for the Bears. Finally a victory coming for Chicago.